Hi guys, welcome back. So we are back with season 2, and this is, I would say, in terms of behind the success, our journey has been decoding decoding a lot of minds in terms of what has been happening around with people who are able to achieve success and also sustain success. With season 2, our objective is slightly different. We would try our best to dive in terms of understanding human emotions better, human body better, and also human brain. So overall idea is that how we can unlock human potential is something we would like to reflect through season 2. So for today's episode, we have Deeksha Sharma with us. Thank you, Deeksha, for joining in. A fun fact before I welcome you officially, me and Deeksha shared our first TEDx experience together, and I guess I believe that was first for you as well. And we both, I mean, I've done 2, I think she has done 3 maybe, but yeah, I mean, it has been a good long journey. First of all, welcome officially, and I would like to ask first that how are you doing exactly?
First of all, thank you so much, Gaurav, for having me on your show. I'm honored to come here, and I really love the initiative which you have taken, and I think this is really imperative, and it's a need of the hour. And you don't know, like listening to you, maybe people are changing their lives. Even a single sentence of yours is changing their life altogether. So thank you so much for having such a beautiful initiative. And talking about me, I am fine, I'm good. Yes, we met first time on a first TEDx, and it has been an amazing journey. And because of COVID, things changed, and I had online, conferences and TEDx conferences, and because of that, most of my TEDx were online, and one was which we had was like offline. I think we were very lucky to have it. We were on the edge and we just had the COVID. So yes, after that I had 3 more, but they were all online. And I think your initiative is all about like how to come back and get the elasticity of our lives, come back on track and learn from people around and with their experiences. So thank you, Gaurav, for that.
Thank you very much. And I guess I definitely connect with you because mine second TEDx also happened virtually. And definitely it's altogether very different experience going to a physical event and going to a virtual event. So I would say I completely agree to you. So I mean, in fact, during your first talk as well, that we had little interactions about understanding human emotions. And I was actually reflecting back to your talk also that you shared your experiences about certain set of emotions and then how you can create, let's say, those triggers and XYZ. So my first question comes, and this is specifically what I see with current generation around, that a lot of people are actually extremely happy when they're on social media, right? But I'm saying, but what happens in real life, there's a lot different scenario. So what is your take on that? And or I would say, why you feel that is happening?
Okay, so the question is, I think it's so relatable to everyone. And I think the social media, the idea of having social media in the society, if you keep the companies aside, was to connect people, to have more supportive groups, to understand each other. And then with time, we realize that how much we are dependent on them, and we have made our life so handicapped. So if you remember, Gaurav, as you're trying to link it with my first TEDx, so I will go back to that that talk, and where I spoke about that, how people are so tied to their phones and they're just scrolling, and don't even realize that they're doing that. And one of the most enigmatic example which I have in my mind right now are the reels. You know, you just start scrolling and you just don't stop. And even if you have some timers or something, how much time you're spending on that app, it doesn't help when you're actually on that. So there have been studies where it has been found that how your default brain, which is the brain when you're doing nothing, gets activated when you are just scrolling the phone, because you don't have any specific emotion, but then still you're feeding your mind subconsciously with so much information. What we say, the TMI for all these youngsters, too much information, and that's what is happening right now. So what I feel is that COVID became one of the catalysts for these social medias to exist in a very dominant way in our lives. And it's not an excuse like that. I have not become like part of that. I have not been the victim of that, or I have not been part of that. I won't say that. There have been times like even I'm like looking at the reels and like scrolling and scrolling, and even they are not related to me, but I'm doing that. And then I'm like, why am I doing this? So if you're talking about students, if you're talking about school kids, their lives have changed dramatically. I mean, Gaurav, if you must be resonating with me, like back when we had school, we used to come back home. My mom used to say, like, you need to complete your homework. And then in the evening, we'll get a chance, like, ye ghante hain, like you can go and play, right? So we were excited about that amount of time that we'll go out, meet our friends, and we're going to play. And even in the school, we had very different kind of chemistry, like, meeting students and having projects, having some sport event or something like that. Now the thing is, from the past 2 years of like it has been with lags and with some frequencies, we have been online specifically for students. So that is a very dangerous thing for the students, the younger generation. I mean, there's one positive side also, like, because this is the generation which has gone through something very absurd. So I'm pretty sure they will be, how should I say, they'll be evolved more than us. They are accepting new challenges and still evolving. So how we look at the world and how they're going to look at the world is going to be different. That's the positive side. But the negative side is that already we were enslaved, by these phones and apps and whatnot. Even WhatsApp, take some groups and you're just on it. And it is happening like across the age, from a teenager to a 20-year-old person, 30 years old. And then you can look at our parents, they have these groups on WhatsApp, at least in India. And they have all the misinformation about it. And then you're like, this happens like this. And you have to be like, no, mom, this is not true. We are not supposed to believe this. So all this misinformation and all this cluttered and decluttered information is causing a lot of problem in our brain. For young generation, it is causing a problem because nothing is channelized. You're getting so much, feeding your brain, like for the whole day, you're feeding with one or the other thing. That's not getting time to process that information and go towards something creative, right? That's the problem with the younger generation. For the middle-aged people, it's more like a comparative thing, I think, because they're looking at a place, oh, I'm not able to go here, but the other person is able to travel here. Okay, what's happening? There's causing a lot of depressions and anxiety, that how they're looking at their lives, comparing their lives to something who is, mining a Bitcoin. And like, oh, that guy is only 20 years old and I am like 40 and I haven't done anything in my life. So not understanding everybody have their own story, and accessibility is good, but this is more destructive in the sense because the person is not able to understand the information from where it is coming and how it is coming. And then, as I told you about the older generation having these groups and having this misinformation, and then you cannot make them understand that this is true and this is not true. So how media, the social media is being used is something which is like very dangerous. It can be turned into something very positive, and it actually helped us in the time of the COVID because we were all connected. And like, look at us, like we're still talking because of all the things, we were connected on social media, and that's why we are able to be here. So I thank the social media for that. But how to regulate yourself and acknowledge where to stop and where to begin is very important. And as I have been counseling many students before COVID and in the midst of COVID, and I found that there are addictions other than substance abuse, which are part of the social media, and just not the social media, but anything on the web. And that is not good for our health as like human community. And we need to have some barriers around it. But how to go about it is another question, because we're already, past that limit. So wo karna is something which I think is going to take a longer run. But I'm happy that how people are connected, all the people, like I just recently saw that there was a YouTuber from some village in India, and he had like, I don't know, 80,000 followers or something, and he got a shield, a silver shield, and he was so happy. He was singing a song with his wife, and that just made me happy, everybody, the accessibility is so good. So if as humans, we can make it more constructive, learning from our history, then amazing. But if we don't do that, it's going to be a troublesome thing. And we are going on the negative arch, then not understanding the positive part of it. So thank you so much for this question, Gaurav. I have been contemplating this question from a very long time.
Thank you. So I would say, what you said, and I was just reflecting a lot of pointers. Like, for example, let's say uh, there's there is something. When you go home with your parents and you see they are constantly on calls and XYZ, and you feel, or maybe not calls, but they're constantly. So there are like three people sitting in the room of different generations, and you'll find them being on the phone. I mean, they're all on the phone and they're just there but not there. So
Yes.
somehow I would say we as humans are becoming product instead of we consuming technology or social media as a product. So I think that's a fine line where we need to understand that we consume technology and not the other way. I mean, we should not allow technology to consume us. So moving on from here, and I would say what I would like to understand is, because patience is something which I would say is somewhere is going missing. And this is coming from the perspective that let's say someone is on the call. I mean, be it any generation you take, if you take their phone away, there are going to be different emotions for them. Or let's say if I put the other way, cooking is something, the idea which we're talking about before we started. So I was actually making samosas, and what happened was that there were a couple of friends being home, and no one was able to make the right shape, but I was able to do that. So I was just reflecting, and I thought that it is just the patience. I mean, if you have, cooking is all about patience. So this is where I was thinking that a lot of us and a lot of people around us are actually losing patience because of the social media. And there's also research says that on average, one person has, usually we have attention time for 8 seconds. So now my question to you is that, that in terms of, let's say human species, how do you ensure that we remain internally happy, even if we are waiting for something to happen, or if you are even on the one particular task and we wanting to be on the another task?
Oh, wow. I love the question, Gaurav. First of all, I'm going to have a samosa when I'm going to come back to India. That's very important.
For sure.
So we're gonna together, we're gonna have a samosa. And I really love the way you connected with one of the practical example or incidents which happened in your life. And this is the story with everyone. Everyone is losing patience. And as you mentioned, a very interesting thing, if you take somebody's phone, what will happen? They'll feel insecure. They will start feeling unsafe. They will feel that some part of them has been like taken away from them, like maybe their hand or maybe their leg or something, as if the phone is part of their body or their spiritual or psycho system. I don't know. So as you mentioned about the studies, I will mention one of the very interesting study where long time back, like 10 years before, there was a study being done when a person sees a phone, specifically the iPhone, the same part of the brain gets activated when you see your mom. So that's very interesting. And there were many people who said that, okay, this is not possible. But the study suggested in fMRIs that how the same part of the brain is getting activated when you're seeing a loved one. So that means your affiliations and your perception of love towards the phone is same as for a human being. And that is compared to your mom. That means you are taking your phone as an entity, which is, if you take animated, inanimate objects. Well, we were doing one of the study at Cornell, but it's not yet complete. So in that also, what we did was trying to find out that how you are having affiliation with living and non-living things. And that is a problem with the generation. We have lost the track, What we're doing is that, okay, we are mixing everything, loving the objects and using people. And this is just not the saying by some monk from Buddhist monastery, but this is the truth. And that's what is happening. So as I see your question, I see the bigger question, which is that why and how we reach this stage. It is just because the phone became as a portal to get into so many people, right? Just with a click of just one click and you will be connected with so many people, right? But that is something which is virtual. But our brains start thinking that by this click, I can just enter into a place where I feel safe, where I'm with people where I want to be with. And, these blocking and unblocking and all this stuff. So you can just block somebody and you can unblock somebody. So you create your own safe space and you're trying to publish their things. And you feel that this is a place where it's just like another home for you, right? Now you compare that place to your actual home where maybe your mom is like shouting at you, like, you're not supposed to do this and that, and you just cannot block her, right? And you have to listen to her. So these are the things where the brain is not able to differentiate between the virtual and the real aspect. And that's why our brain is so fogged and fudged up in terms of the phone, as you mentioned. And having said that about the patients thing, it is just not the patients, but if you see the anxiety, even the panic attacks, the depression, this has increased with the use of phones. And there are so many reasons for that. It's just not that, you're just looking at the phone, but the way you are looking at your life. Oh, I want to do this, but I'm not able to do that, but I'm just scrolling the phone. I'm not going to do the hard work for that, but I'll sit and I'll scroll the phone and I'll just get into the depression. Oh, it's not happening with me. So all those kind of things are creating issues. And other than that, how we have trained our brain to find some kind of safe space within this device is something astonishing. And we have done that. So it is our little buddy, which you have all the time, which you all have your secrets with. You're chatting with people. And you think that you're in a safe space, even if you don't know that all the companies can take the data whenever they want from you. So just that, that illusion of being safe and having the access to people as much as you can created a problem. And COVID, again, it accelerated that. Now, talking about specifically patients, yes, because if you see the phone, you just if you see most of the apps, they say that on just one click, you'll get this. On just one click, you'll get this. That means you're making a person feel that within 1 second or just one click, you'll get whatever you want. So if somebody wants to Google something, they will just Google it and they'll get the answer, right? So they don't have the patience to wait for it. But I think the older generation, if they have a question, they'll go to the library, go to that particular place, find the book, open the book, read it, and find what that means. So that's the difference. So we are losing on patience because we have been training our brain like that we can get all the information at any point of time. And that is becoming a problem. So I really love the way you said that while you were making the samosas and your shape was the best, but others were not able to do it because they were losing the patience and they were getting anguish. So the thing is, it's just not the anger. It is their anxiety which is coming into the play because their brain is like, I'm not able to do this. Why not? Why not? Why not? And instead of like, so your red flags comes into being. And that's why where whatever task you're doing, it gets ruptured. Wherein if you have the patience to rectify it, then things will be different. But that's not the case with how you use your phone. So every day you are talking less to your family and your loved ones or any living being, and you're more on your phone. And that is the reason, as you mentioned, that patience is something which is losing out. Now, how can we work around it? That's a hard part because how we have turned our life into is something like we every morning we get up, we have our phones in our hand for every question and every answer. We don't sit and read books. We have stopped doing that. We have stopped giving time to our friends, going and meeting them. Instead of that, you'll just have a call, you'll have a con call or a conference call, and you'll be happy. Okay, that's done. You will not take a car and go to their place and have some fun and have some dinner. You might do that, but in most of the cases, you're doing this con call and you're happy about it. So these are small things which have trained our brain in a way that you'll get everything on the plate like in a flick of a second. It's very difficult to change, Gaurav, but as you are also part of the generation, you're doing it, right? You have the patience to make that samosa. So I believe that if you acknowledge the problem, if you are able to acknowledge that yes, the social media or all these electronic gadgets are for our services, as you mentioned, and not that we are supposed to be the one giving the service to them. The moment we understand that part, I think then the patience thing, the anguish thing, or anxiety thing can be worked out. But the problem is that more than 90 to 95% of the population who are using these different gadgets and applications, I think they don't even realize it where they are right now. So acknowledgement is the first thing, as you have already acknowledged, and you're able to see like how people don't have the patience, but you have the patience. So if through your podcast, they can just understand this little fine detail, I think things can work from that, because devils lies in between the lines. So that's the most important.
True. In fact, there are two things which cross my mind while listening to you. One, I would say, so once we acknowledge the problem, the solution needs to be a little more customized. So for example, I know that I enjoy driving, and I know that that's the time when I can't be on my phone, right? So I mean, everyone needs to figure out their own formula, what works out the best for them, and what makes them enjoy that. So I guess that is where it comes. In fact, one thing when you said about and personally meeting people and the personal touch, I was just reflecting one of the video by Simon Sinek where he highlights that what is missing right now is that once you go to meeting room in the office, you are on the phone, and the moment the meeting starts, you are away from the phone, but the moment the meeting ends, you're again on the phone. So people are actually losing out the essence of talking to someone who's sitting next to them, right? So it's just like what's happening is that we are missing out on human relationships, because at the end, be it your friends, be it your investors, be it your customers, everyone is human at the end, right? So it's about knowing them and leading through compassion and empathy, something what has been missing, I would say. And that I think that's personally also people are doing in individual capacity. So from there, since we talked about Simon Sinek, and I was just thinking that so let's say I follow Simon and let's say Jim Quick, who talks about like hacking human brain. My question to you is that there are a lot of emotions people talk about, right? And a lot of, I would say, enzymes, if I have to say. For example, I know that, okay, I have a cat, so I know that what kind of enzymes could be generated the moment I see her. So it's about dopamine, oxytocin, endorphin, and serotonin. So my question to you is that a lot of time people claim that you can hack those hormones. My first question to you is that even possible? And if yes, my second question would be that what is the upside and downside to it?
Yes, of course. So there are people who have been talking about like, how can you be happy, right? So there are artificial ways and other ways to understand your body and your body language, and to understand your mental formula, and then work around it. So if you're talking about the artificial ways, there are many, which I don't want to get into, but if you're not using an external source to have that short-term acceleration in these hormones, then I believe there are different ways to go about it. So for example, a runner, when he runs, there is a release of hormones where he feels peaceful and relaxed. And that's the time when that person understands that this is my thing, right? So as you mentioned, if you like driving, right? So just having music and just driving is just making you feel peaceful. So what is meant by being peaceful, right? That's the big question. Peaceful means that you're at the moment. It's just not being happy, but being content, being there where you are, and you're in the shastras, and what we say is like you're having a chakras aligned, and in neuroscientific way, it's like you're hormonally balanced with the adrenaline and whatsoever it is. And if I look at the question in a different way, I'll say this thing, that our body and mind are connected beautifully. So our gut has more neural connection than our brain. And that is very fascinating. So what you eat and how you eat is going to impact how you behave and what you feel. And we don't understand it like if you're trying to understand, like in the Hindu mythologies and our shastras, then we'll be like, okay, it's something written somewhere in the scriptures. But having said that, it is scientifically proven that how our gut-brain axis is actually helping our well-being. And as being said that, how can we regulate these hormones? So our brain is a very beautiful organ. Everything is between the ears. And if you look at it right now, we're still evolving as Homo sapiens, as species. And maybe in the coming 1,000 years, we might be very different than what we are right now. And there have been studies where it has been said that we will be so evolved that we'll be able to regulate our vital organs also. So if somebody has a high blood pressure, they'll be able to regulate it through our brain. So, but we're not yet there. Because if you see, as human species, we are, I think, one of the most delicate and species on Earth, but we are still able to, overpower the strongest species, maybe like a lion or an elephant. Why? Because whatever is between these 2 ears made us understand that how we can tame everything and create homes and be safe, right? And how such a delicate and such a timid species is able to be at the top of the food chain, where critically we were supposed to be at middle or low level of the food chain. So that's very interesting. If you see the how the Darwin's theory works and how the evolution works. So I think the strongest part which we have is something which is between the ears, that is the brain. And then how that brain has evolved into a mind, that's another story. And that mind is still evolving, and with time we can regulate it. At present, if you see the status quo of human species, talking about regulating these hormones, yes, that can be done. For some people, it is meditation. For some people, it is painting. So when I'm counseling students, recently I just asked 2 of my students to just do painting. They had the same problem of being impatient and getting anguish and having panic attacks. I just asked them, start painting, and don't do the large stroke of the brush, do smaller strokes, little by little. Get a drawing where it is already like something is drawn, and you have to just fill in the color and do it with perfection. You should not overcrowd the outer line, and you have to do it, and you have to sit there for 1 hour. And trust me, like when they did that, they were like, I am not a painter. I said, you're not supposed to be a painter to do that. It is just like you are, shutting off your brain for some time and doing one activity and just focusing on that. And when you're doing that, you find that your brain and everything is at peace because you're focusing on one thing, not thinking anything about that. And that is where the default brain comes in. When that happens, and when you complete the task, then your reward system generates in the brain. Oh, I completed this task and I was at peace at that time. B, that means at the moment. And that time, some hormones were generated which help them to regulate and be at that place for some time. So as you mentioned, simple small activities can help. In your case, Gaurav, I think cooking is one of them. And I will resonate with that because even I do cooking. And I feel cooking is something which just makes you relax. And I will confess one more thing, like washing utensils and cleaning my home, like brooming. It's me time. When I do that, like here you have to do it. Like you don't have mates, but then when you do it, you are in your own zone. And for me, that is like my meditation. So everyone has their own way to meditate. Meditation doesn't mean just sitting like cross-legged and saying Om all the time. There are different ways. Like cooking is another kind of meditation. Some people like just bathing, or some people like swimming, some people like driving. So as you said, it has to be customized. It is something which is very subjective. It depends on our needs and being at that moment and what your experience have been in the past, which will help you to understand that how your brain is feeling at peace. Now, there are people who like to stay alone, right? They feel like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm fine by myself. And there are people who cannot stay alone. They need to talk and move out and have some, physical proximity, meeting some people every day. I have met both kind of people. So this is very subjective, but then again, these small activities, which are not like very neuroscience-y, where you need to do something extra special or something, you can make changes. Just by going out for a walk can make loads of difference on your hormonal imbalances and what so you call like chakras and everything. Like, so that's the way people are minting money right now. I have felt like the chakras are imbalanced. You have to do this. You don't have to do anything. Just wash your utensils and you will feel a difference. And if that's not your cup of tea, do something which you like, even if it's not giving you results. But if you're liking it, it is actually indirectly giving you results. So that is very important. You don't have to do something very scientific about it or very technical about it. Our human body is made like that. Like everyday activity can make you feel a surge in your hormones, but you have to find what is your cup of tea. That's the thing.
Thank you. I think I was definitely able to relate with utensils example, because a lot of people hate it. And I guess I love it. I mean, I can wash utensils for half an hour and and I will not be thinking about what I'm doing. For me, like every particular utensil is just one object. And for me, it's like just, I mean, you're not thinking why I'm doing it. I'm just enjoying the process. So I think, so it is where, I mean, I'm able to relate what you're saying. With this, I just want a quick take from your side. So you talked about evolution, and I would say, my question is that a lot of time, as human species, we like to measure and compare, right? So how do you see, in terms of human emotions, what is your take that what previous generation a lot better than us, or you believe that with the access of technology, social media, we are doing better? A quick take.
God, this is a very heavy question, a very tough question. I have been contemplating on this question from a very long time, and I am in a conundrum, that it's very difficult to compare. But as you know, older generation says we are better, and we say we are better, and then the younger generation will come in like we are better. But I think every generation had their own way of handling the problem. So if you see the time of world wars, where our grandparents were there, they had their own issues, and they went through something, I think, which you and I cannot think about. Independence of India, we just cannot think about that. People of our age were actually fighting for the independence of our country. So we have taken that for granted, that that we have the freedom of speech. But that time it wasn't the case. But now, as we have it, so I'll relate it to the mass glow theory. So mass glow theory is like at the bottom, it's about the security of home, water, food. These are things which you need. And then above that is the security of having the sustainability of having this every day. So one thing is that you're having the food for one day, and the above that is that, can I have this food every day? So if the first line gets completed, like, okay, that I am getting the food right now, I'm satisfied. But what if I'm going to get it next day or not? That's the higher level. The above level is, if you have the food and everything, it is about love, affection, friends, and everything. And above that is self-actualization. So people who are billionaires, they have everything, and they're like, okay, let me climb Mount Everest, or let me go to space or something like that. So if you compare this mass glow theory with different generations, so our older generation, they had different set of problems, the sense of security of home, their family, and they were struggling for entirely a different set of issues. Now, talking about our parents' generation, they were going from the economic crisis and so many issues going on, that how they'll survive and everything. So their state of mind, how they look at things is like, beta, you're supposed to do this, you become engineer or doctor. They're not wrong, because the way they look at it is different, right? Then is our generation, which has seen a lot, but we are actually on a journey of seeing so many changes, from starting a computer to going to metaverse. So our brain is like adapting. And the younger generation, they are way ahead of us. If you see a little kid, how he swipes on the phone or iPad, you're like, oh my God, you don't know anything. They will tell you things which you don't know, the attributes of those apps. So they are smarter, but they have their own challenges. So one of the challenges, too many choices. So older generation, they had very few choices of what they wanted to be. But this generation, the generation which is younger than us, who are right now teenagers, is a generation like X and Z generation. They have an issue of so many choices, that what to do with them. There is no one to tell them, how can we take this choice and not this one? So there's a choice paralysis. So every generation is going through one or the other thing, and we should respect that. None of them is better than the other. They have their own set of problems and own set of challenges, and we should respect that. But yes, as human species, I believe that we should learn from the history and not repeat the mistakes as human civilization, which we have done earlier, because otherwise we'll be going back to the abyss from where we started. So that's my take on that.